excitement of being hands-on. That's what you have to let go of and let AI do that. And then you figure out like how does your communication change? How do you build trust with people? How do you become a continuous learner? So once you design your entire environment around that, as you're building all of these like agentic systems and new workflows and new ways of doing things, what we found is within that 8-week period, people aren't just changing their mindset, they're actually applying and building.
Welcome to Lunch with Leaders, the podcast where we explore what it takes to lead, thrive, and create lasting impact. I'm Adesileju Dogalanya, a TEDx speaker, leadership strategist, and the founder of African Women in STEM. Each episode features insightful conversations with innovators, trailblazers, and leaders from around the world who are transforming cultures, redefining leadership, and shaping the future of work. Together, we'll share the stories, strategies, and mindsets that will empower women in STEM to amplify their visibility, influence, and impact. So if you're ready to lead boldly, amplify your voice, and help influence what leadership looks like for women in STEM, hit follow, share this podcast, and join us every week for impactful conversations, powerful stories, and practical strategies.
Well, so our guest today is Nikki Barua. I'm going to go ahead and read her bio so you know how incredible she is. So Nikki is a serial entrepreneur, keynote speaker, best-selling author, a globally recognized expert in transformation. She's the CEO and co-founder of FlipFactor, the transformation partner helping organizations reinvent their culture, capabilities, and competitive edge for the AI age. So for over 25 years, Nikki has worked with some of the world's most iconic brands, guiding them through digital transformation, workforce reinvention, and organizational change at scale. And she knows firsthand that technology is only half the equation, and the real breakthroughs come from building people and culture ready to use it. So as a tech entrepreneur who has built and scaled high-growth businesses, Nikki brings both the strategic lens of a leader and the hard-won wisdom of someone who has navigated disruption herself. Her personal journey from a humble beginning to building global companies has made her a sought-after voice on resilience, reinvention, and what it actually takes to lead through change. Her story has been featured in CNBC, Bloomberg, Fortune, and Forbes. So she's been named Entrepreneur of the Year by ACE, honored as the EY North America Entrepreneurial Winning Woman, and included in the Entrepreneurs Magazine 100 most influential women, also recognized as one of the 21 leaders for the 21st century. She's incredible, okay? And I'm going to say this because I thought it was really cool. She was also named the top entrepreneur by Comerica Bank and LA Lakers. Okay, I didn't know LA Lakers name anybody any mates. I had to bring that in there. Well, welcome, Nikki. I'm so excited to have you here, and I can't wait to get into all the questions.
Thank you for the warm welcome, Adesi. I'm so happy to be here.
I am too. This is exciting. This is diving. Okay, so there's a lot of conversation and focus right now on AI and about AI transformation and how it's changing everything and how it's changing the future of work. And we just had a conversation before we started about how it's changing our lives. So from your perspective, you work with organizations a lot. What do you think they should be focusing on right now that is impacting them more than just let's figure out how to use AI for everything?
Yeah, I think we are experiencing one of the greatest disruptions in modern human history, right? We've seen technology change our world, even in our generation over the years. We've seen the internet change life and work and business. We've seen mobile and cloud and all of these things that happen. The difference with AI, though, is the speed and scale of that change is unnatural for the speed and scale with which humans can consume that change, our ability to adapt to that change. And that's the most important thing that any leader, any business, any company should be focused on addressing, is that the technology part is the easy part of the equation. It's how will you help your people adapt to that transition in a way that humanizes the experience instead of devastates their lives and makes them feel like they're getting left behind. And that's the real leadership challenge of this decade.
I mean, I can't imagine how that's going to work because we just heard recently of the And before I read that, I was just reading, there's a lady I follow on LinkedIn. She said something about why are we normalizing laying people off their email? But I think about it, if you're going to lay off tens of thousands of people, there's really not easy way to do it. So even though we're craving humanity, we're becoming less
No.
and less of that. And so this is a very difficult time to be in. And you've said that the real gap that we're experiencing isn't a technological gap. For some reason, we think it is. But you believe, and I believe that also, that it's a human thing. It's a human gap that we're experiencing. So can you help us understand what organizations are getting wrong when they approach AI transformation only as a technology problem, and probably just also thinking of maybe just the bottom line as well?
Look, I think for every company, there's a tremendous amount of pressure to adapt to AI, right? If you're a public company, the stock market is demanding that transformation. Your board and the CEO needs for the company to adapt to AI. That's just a reality of where everybody is. It's not just about big companies, even for individuals. Today, if you are not AI fluent and you haven't figured out how to be successful in this new reality, you are going to get left behind. So there's a tremendous amount of urgency and pressure around that. So step one is accept that reality. Stop fighting it. As long as you kind of want to go back to the way things were, or you're still waiting and watching, you are actively getting left behind. But the second most important thing is to recognize that this is something we're all figuring out, because there's so much uncertainty. Nobody has a proven formula yet of how to navigate through this kind of uncertainty and change. And so for most companies, what they're doing is leading with the technology. They're investing in AI tools. They're investing in all of the new AI capabilities and LLMs and all of that. But what they haven't fully done, and frankly, they should do it in the reverse order, is they're starting with the tech, then they're going to the process, and then they're going to the people. In reality, it should be the other way around. Start with the people, figure out where they are, what they need, and what will help them reinvent themselves. Then redesign the process, and then introduce the technology and the new AI tools. Because then you've kind of fixed the environment, you've primed the people, and then you're giving them these revolutionary tools. When you do it the reverse way, and when you start with the tech and then finally get around to the people, it's like you're putting a Ferrari engine in a lawnmower. It's not going to go any faster because people are still stuck in the old way. And as long as they're stuck in the old way, they're basically using AI in a very superficial way. Most people, they're using chatbots like a faster Google search, right? They don't know what they don't know. They don't know what to do differently. And most importantly, they don't know what they need to unlearn and let go of. That's the real challenge.
Because we hear that with AI, especially when people use at least the LLMs that we know, that it's really critical for you to be able to train it, because if not, you're just going to get any kind of information.
Yeah.
So what is it about unlearning? I don't think people have actually applied it to how they use AI. That's something to really think about. I'm just going to ask, if somebody tells you, oh, if I do what you're saying, Nikki, starting with the people, that's just going to take a long time and I don't have that time. What would your response be to that? To the point where you said earlier, which is like companies don't have a choice. Even small businesses, nobody really has a choice right now. But for bigger companies, they have to deal with the stock market, have to deal with the board. There's somebody putting fire under their feet. And then like, we have to get this done. But now, Nikki, you're telling me that I have to go this way, which I'm going to tell you now it's going to take forever. What will be your response?
Well, it'll take forever if you do change management the old way. I mean, I come from that background of transformation throughout my career, and that's how long it used to take. It would take anywhere from 2 years to sometimes 5 years of these long, slow transformation programs where you are kind of, taking everything step by step. And by the time you get to the end, the world has changed again. That change management formula does not work. That kind of approach to transformation is destined to fail, because if LLMs have new models every few weeks and you're taking years to adapt to it, naturally you have the wrong formula. And that's why FlipWork was really built to address that exact challenge, because what we do is first we start with a diagnostic, because you can't fix something you don't understand. And for every person in the workplace, they're getting one size fits all solution. They're being told, here's a license, here's your access, or here's some AI training, and everybody gets the same AI training. What it doesn't consider is that each one of us is unique. Each one of us has a different conditioning, a different background, a different way of thinking, a different way of working. So what our diagnostic does is it helps to assess where people are and what is their AI readiness and what is their archetype, what behavioral mindset patterns are bottlenecks or strengths for them. Once we get that diagnostic, we actually use an AI change agent that recognizes. So if you take that diagnostic, it would know your profile, and then the AI change agent knows exactly what you need to go from where you are to where you need to be, and will guide you step by step in that process in a very safe environment. And we do that in just 8 weeks. So instead of 18 months, you're getting results in 8 weeks where the person completely transforms, becomes AI native, and has the right kind of reinvented mindset and workflows that allow them to be highly productive and create 10x the value than they were before. But the most important thing that happens in that process is they shift their identity. Instead of thinking the old way, they have completely shed the old beliefs, the old playbook, and have now adopted a new approach of thinking, working, and leading. That's the real unlock.
Okay, like I am blown away for how organizations are hiring right now. But I mean, this is really, I'm going to use the word revolutionary because I don't think, at least I haven't heard it this way, especially for large organizations. So when you say that with FlipFactor, you're able to help people get from zero to AI native to at a point where they can really be able to implement whatever change they have, whatever AI transformation is going on in 8 weeks. I don't think enough people have heard that, because if they have, I don't think we have most of the problems that we have. Because I know a few people that are in, AI consulting, and it's always like a back and forth thing. I think it even probably takes longer for people to make up their mind about what they want to do than the actual thing that needs to be done. So I want to say thank you so much for bringing this up. And please, if you're listening, okay, go talk to your management right now and talk to you.
Well, I'll tell you why this has been such an effective process. I've literally been in this industry solving this exact kind of problem for 28 years. And I saw the same pattern over and over again. What was very clear to me is that old formula is not going to deliver results in the AI age. And if we don't fix the formula, millions of jobs will be lost, families will be impacted, livelihoods will be gone. So to me, this was a very urgent mission to address. We have to help people whose lives depend on becoming AI native and becoming agentic leaders. If they don't get the right support, they will be impacted. Businesses will still be fine because they'll just move on. They'll lay off the people and they'll move on, right? What about the people that got laid off? What does their future look like? And the answer to that is not some basic AI training of learning how to use Claude or building vibe coding an app. That's not going to change your career. That's not going to save your job. So Flipwork was built from the mission of how can we make people exponentially capable, take them from people scared to people squared, that helps them with like human machine collaboration and make them feel empowered that they can do it on their own. So our entire methodology and the science of what drives our AI transformation platform is based on neuroscience and adult learning and psychology and human behavior and change management techniques. And it's a proprietary formula that, that's why it's able to deliver results so fast instead of consultants coming from the outside taking 2 years to drive that change. So the best part of what we do isn't just that we get this transformation done in such a short time. The best part of what we do is we unlock human potential. We make people feel like they are still valuable and relevant and they can do anything. And it gives them the inspiration and motivation to thrive and succeed in their careers. And that's a, beautiful mission to fight for every single day.
So can you tell us more about what you call the People's Square movement? Because now I'm curious, even more curious than I was before. I think the way you extend it is kind of like humans and intelligent systems of technology working together and how that is supposed to look like. So can you tell us a bit more about that and tell us how we can become this incredible all the time using this method?
Yeah. So what we found, our diagnostic has been deployed to thousands of people around the globe. So the benefit of that is we get to see the data and behavioral and skill set data of exactly where people are. And it was shocking even to us to see that even the most senior, seasoned, experienced leaders in the world's leading companies, and these aren't like backward companies in small places. These are cutting edge companies, that are some of America's top brands, that even there, so many people were resistant to AI. But what we discovered was the resistance wasn't because they didn't want AI. The resistance was they didn't want to lose what they valued so much, which was their own history, their own identity, the things that got you to this place. Imagine someone coming and saying, listen, you've had a great career for 20 plus years. Now we just want you to erase that. Let go of your title, let go of your experience, let go of everything you've done, and you got to start from the bottom. That's a pretty threatening thing, and people don't want to lose that. So that's what their real resistance comes from. And so once they start with the flip work transformation, they go through this self-empowered approach where the process helps them discover their zone of genius. What is it that is your innate talent and gift? What's your superpower that only you have? And what is it that is irreplaceable by AI? So, for example, your creativity. AI can replicate someone else's creativity or deliver some homogeneous creative idea, but it will not come up with the same idea that you will based on your lived experience, based on how your mind works, based on your inclinations and all of that. So once you discover what is unique to you, then we help them identify what are all the things you need to let go because you were doing it the old school way. So even if you're a marketer, you might have done research a certain old school way. You might have done campaign planning a certain way. You might have creative ideas a certain way, and you're used to the excitement of being hands-on. That's what you have to let go of and let AI do that. And then you figure out how does your communication change? How do you build trust with people? How do you become a continuous learner? So once you design your entire environment around that, as you're building all of these agentic systems and new workflows and new ways of doing things, what we found is within that 8-week period, people aren't just changing their mindset, they're actually applying and building. Because in the AI age, there's no value for people that just are theoretical. You have to be what I call an E-shaped builder. You have to be hands-on. It's the world of makers, not managers. And so in that 8-week period, they learned to build stuff. And these, I'm talking about C-suite executives, that it's been a long time since they did anything hands-on. And in that 8-week period, they're actually designing agentic systems. They're actually coding. They're actually building tools and learning how to do this stuff. So it's almost like a lab environment where they're not afraid of breaking anything, and they get all the guidance and they get all of the right direction. And suddenly they see, wow, I'm capable of this. Even though I'm a non-techie and I'm a CMO of some major company, I'm actually capable of this. That shifts their identity. And that's what makes them discover the right way of partnering with AI, which almost becomes like an extension of themselves. We all often joke about how, oh my God, I'm so busy, I wish I had a clone, right? Well, now you do. But you got to figure out what part you do and what part your clone does. And that's what that process takes them through. And they finally, within that period, suddenly they've cloned themselves. That's how they become squared.
I love that. So we will talk about this a little bit more because now we're so intrigued. So this podcast, primarily, most of our audience are women in STEM. And there's a lot of opportunity, just like what you said right now, for us to shape this new. We bring so much to the table, and I'm glad that you mentioned the fact that when people are resistant to change or transformation or AI transformation, it's not because they don't want to use AI; it's because they feel like I have to drop everything and start from the beginning. What unique advantage can these women bring into leadership, especially in this AI age and through AI transformation?
I think one of the interesting things that the research and the data has revealed is that even the most technical people, including software developers and engineers that are now actively using AI to do their jobs, but outside of doing their core job, they're actually under leveraging AI. The usage pattern is barely 30 to 35%. Now you would think compared to non-technical people, anyone in tech would actually use it far more, and they're not. And it's for all the same reasons. Most people just don't know the possibilities, right? But once you understand the possibilities, because you have a STEM mind, you're much more adept to figure out new ways of thinking through it. And the greatest value that AI brings to humanity is being able to solve our greatest challenges. No matter what kind of problem we're facing in the world, whether it is curing cancer or solving the climate crisis or helping with education or employment, any of those things, humans and AI together can solve any of those problems, right? Like we built intelligence so that that intelligence can solve the problems that humans alone can do. And for that, that's what, anyone in a STEM field should be so excited about. But that's not going to happen unless you fully participate, unless you're AI native and you bring your own unique perspective and lived experience to solve the problems that are meaningful to you.
I am so glad you're saying this because we have a series running this year that is really like women in AI. So Women in STEM Roundtable, or we focus on AI. And the goal is, again, get comfortable and very comfortable with using this, with collaborating with other people, with figuring out how you can implement it in your work and drive it forward. We're going to take a little break to get a message from our sponsors, and we'll be back shortly. If you love this podcast, there's so much more to love. So every week, I share AI and career advancement strategies and leadership development insights straight to your inbox. So today, if you haven't already, subscribe to the AWI STEM newsletter. It's a free newsletter, it's practical, and it's built to help you get to the next level in your career faster. So the link is in the show notes. Subscribe today. All right, and now we're back. So let's talk about reinvention, because we hear this word a lot, and it kind of seems like, again, going back to what's happening, it's been in the last year with all the layoffs and the changes in the work environment, you find that reinvention is not a thing that you have the luxury of doing when you retire. You're like, okay, let me reinvent myself today. People find themselves in unexpected situations where they kind of have to do that. But because we don't think about it, we are stuck. You say reinvention is kind of a way of being, right? I don't think that, and many people don't think of it that way. So when it comes time to reinvent themselves, it's usually when a disruption happens and it's forced on them and they don't know what's.
Yeah.
So how can you help them figure out, regardless of how you started or where you are, or how you consider reinvention, if it's here now, or even if you're not there yet, start thinking about it. How can you help them, figure out how to walk themselves through the process when the time comes, or if they're experiencing it now?
Well, first of all, let's ground ourselves in why this is necessary. For most of modern human history, we have aspired to stability, right? Our parents, our grandparents raised us and said, that safe career. Go to school for medicine or become a lawyer, an engineer, because they were guaranteed paths for success. And every generation wants the next generation to be more successful and to have less struggle. And so the traditional advice was choose the safe career. And because of that, we went through years of education, chose that job, worked really hard, climbed the corporate ladder, made money and all of that. Well, AI has completely changed that, right? The era is completely over. So if you're still aspiring for safety and security and a linear path, you're in for a shock, you're in for a rude surprise. And that is the kind of thing that circumstance will force you to reinvent yourself. What we now have to shift our expectations to is there is no safety, there is no certainty, there is no linear path. So get comfortable with that as the reality and get excited about it rather than saying, oh, I wish it was, the old way. Well, you're wishing for the caveman era. You're wishing for the industrial era. Think of it as the world has opened up where anyone, anywhere can be anything. There's no limits. We have infinite intelligence at our disposal. The question is, what is your dream? What do you really want to achieve? And nothing is there to stop you. But that will only be possible when you embrace uncertainty and you are willing to go with the flow. But every time you do that, you have to have a real purpose behind it. And that is what intentional reinvention looks like. And the steps for that is number one, choose curiosity. What are you most curious about right now? Like if you look at where you stand right now, it doesn't matter what your life is about, what your career is about. As you look 10 years into the future, what are you most curious about? What problem do you care deeply about solving? Who do you want to help? Who do you want to become? Get curious about that. Number two, you have to be humble, because if you hold on to the ego and the credentials and the status of what got you here, you'll be unwilling to shed that baggage and take on a beginner's mindset and be a rookie who says, well, it's okay if I don't know anything, I'm willing to learn. It's okay if I'm at the top, I'm willing to start at the bottom. You have to be humble in order to reinvent yourself. And number three, you got to be brave, because nothing changes until you take action. And you will not take action unless you have that one brave step forward. So the process of reinvention is all about curiosity, humility, and bravery, but it's all about recognizing that that is the only formula for thriving in the AI era. Anything else is a figment of the past.
I agree. I used to always say, live fully, stay curious.
Mm-hmm.
And because I think especially now with AI, to your point, things change every day and at a kind of speed that nobody ever anticipated in this life.
No,
And I don't think we've seen the last of it. It's only going to get.
we're just very we're the very early stages.
I don't know if that should scare me or that should make me excited. Whichever way, you're saying that just being curious, staying curious is actually key. It is key because what it means that you're open-minded. I remember when I was going to this public speaking program, they always said, come with the mind of a beginner, because a lot of people there were experts. Probably spoke for several years on companies, did all those things. So it's always a problem when you come in and expect that I'm going to come in and be exactly at the level that I am with everything else that I'm doing. And then you don't allow yourself to just figure out this new thing. How do I fit into it? How does it fit in? But it just made it easier, so throw away all the expectations and just be open and curious. And it's just going to get easier for you to navigate the spaces.
One thing I'll add to that, to just give perspective to anyone who hears this and feels uncomfortable about the idea. A lot of why we struggle with this concept is because of our cultural conditioning. So much of what we have been raised to believe and aspire to looks like a ladder, right? It's a straight ladder. And every time we climb one rung of the ladder, our family's proud of us. We feel safer, we feel better, we feel more powerful. Maybe we get more status, maybe we make more money, we have more financial security. All of those benefits come with climbing that ladder. Most important thing that we have to unlearn is that ladder has crumbled. So whether you won the ladder or not, the ladder doesn't exist. The idea of status and success has shifted to those that simply pursue different experiences, keep learning constantly, and keep giving at bigger and bigger scale. So the idea is not about accumulation. The idea is about contribution. It doesn't look like a ladder. It looks like a wild adventure that you have to enjoy and go on, because it allows you to give and help more people along the way. So that conditioning is what you have to be aware of, but it's not going to serve you well if you keep holding on to it.
I love the part where you said wild adventure. And just thinking that the ladder no longer exists, I don't think many of us got that memo. So we're still looking for it and trying to climb it, which is why I think it's a lot more difficult to deal with what's happening right now, because again, there's no blueprint or playbook for how things are turning out. Because we all have plans. Like I read a post on LinkedIn today, someone that just lost a job was like, I always had a plan. Just last week we did this entire program about how to make your career better or whatever it is, and here I am with the second company and I'm no longer there. What is the plan? There's nothing wrong with planning, but what you're saying is just to be open to the plan morphing in so many different ways before I finally get where you're going.
So the plan is still necessary, right? What I'm saying is not that life is a wild adventure, so have no plan, have no ambition, have no goals. All of those things are still necessary. It's what's in the plan that has changed.
Yeah.
The old plan looked like a timeline, 5 years out, what you're going to do in year one, what you're going to do in year two. And it was very static. You could create a plan, follow the plan, and you would know that you might hit a few bumps in the road, but generally, circumstances and your environment is going to allow you to follow that plan. Today, it doesn't. If you create that kind of 5-year plan, you're trying to predict the future that nobody can. So it doesn't make sense that the components of your plan don't make sense that way. The way I do my planning is I have a North Star for 5 years, 10 years out, and the North Star isn't about what I want to accomplish or what I want to accumulate. The North Star is, who do I want to become? What kind of person do I want to be? What are the things I'm curious about learning? So I have a 10-year master plan about subjects I want to learn. I have literally a 10-year plan of, here are the areas that I'm deeply curious about. And they're totally different. They're between like social sciences and engineering and math and literature. They're different areas, but they're just areas I'm deeply curious about. So I have a 10-year learning plan. But then within that, I look at every 90 days, what am I putting into action that allows me to apply those skills, learn new type of capabilities and competencies, and create new kinds of value. So I do everything in 90-day cycles. So it's like every 90 days, I get a data point of what's working, what's not working, where I need to pivot, what is working really well that I need to double down on. And then I create the next 90-day action plan. So it's taking a long-term vision that gives you a North Star, but then taking action in short cycles, because that allows you to adjust to the reality of the market.
Yeah, I love that. I'm just going to ask one question. I can see clearly how that will apply to, again, I'm not necessarily going to separate you from the career or business, but if someone comes and says, okay, I get that, but what if, say, I'm an entrepreneur, a business owner, a founder, and I'm trying to, for example, get financing, a loan, and they're like, what is your 5-10 year plan? I have to give something more concrete. Based on this conversation that we're having, how can we, whoever is doing that, kind of do it without still leaving room to adjust for how the world is changing right now?
First of all, if there's a banker or an investor that is asking you for what your 10 or 15-year plan is, find a new one. That is not the right partner you want, because anyone right now who talks like that is clearly clueless, right? So that's not going to serve you well. But if you do need to address that question, it's more about how you're going to adapt to change and how you're building agility into your business, because resiliency actually matters more, right? When there's constant disruption, you have to disrupt yourself before you get disrupted. So the question is, how's that built into your business model? Are you able to scale up or scale down flexibility? So for a concrete example, for a business owner, that would mean, how are your fixed costs designed that if something radically changes, you don't go bankrupt because your fixed costs are so high that you're not able to flex with the environment. Instead, if you build the kind of business model where you have variable costs that can adjust to the market, that's a resilient business. If you have a supply chain that's highly dependent on only one supplier and you don't have enough diverse sources, you're risking your business with anything that happens geopolitically. So all of those things are the reality of today's working environment. And one interesting framework that I think people should get familiar with, traditionally in business, there was the 5 forces of business that we looked at, right? There's World Economic Forum released a new 5 forces model, and it's completely different. And it actually considers things like geopolitics and climate and technology and all of that. If you have, in order to answer the question of show me your 10-year plan, your 10-year plan should consider how you operate against those 5 new forces, and how you will navigate change against all of that, right? And frankly, me as a business owner and my entire network is all, top entrepreneurs. I've seen in reality people with, $300 million businesses having to have that resiliency, because that's what business looks like today. It's not the static 5-year, 10-year plan of the past.
How to lead when intelligence is becoming more non-human. And by that, I mean, right now that we're using AI for a lot of things. I don't know what it is, but there's a tendency for people to almost kind of outsource their intelligence. It's AI is almost like, okay, AI knows everything. Like someone be like, oh my God, Grok was so wonderful because it did this. I'm like, but you were able to, because of your knowledge, working in that industry for so many years, you're able to ask the right questions to get the right thing, but we kind of miss that. So when we have to lead, either we're leading people or we're in charge of certain responsibilities in organizations, with intelligence becoming less human, how can we lead? And we're still going to have to lead human beings in the midst of all of this AI transformation that's happening.
So first off, I think it's important for us to recognize that some fundamentals are shifting in real time. Number one, as a leader, don't think you're leading humans only anymore. Every leader, every manager now needs to think in terms of leading hybrid teams. And that hybrid includes human employees and AI employees. Okay. And in my business, I have 50 AI employees, by the way. They all have job descriptions. They all have performance metrics. They all have specific responsibilities, but they work alongside my human employees. So that changes how you have to think as a leader. If you are only comfortable leading human beings, you're actually going to be inept in leading this hybrid human machine environment. So that's a very core fundamental that is shifting. And we have to accept that reality. If you are an employee, you got to work alongside machine, AI team members. If you're a leader, you need to lead that hybrid team. And as a result of that, that's also changing org design. What used to be this pyramid-like hierarchical structure designed in the industrial era, where people put in tight little boxes, working 9 to 5 in cubicles with beige carpet, that is changing. So now we have to go from an army of workers to a team, an agile team of Navy SEALs that moves fast, that is skilled and multidisciplinary, and they're able to build and solve problems fast. So that nature of org design stops looking like a pyramid and then starts looking more like a molecular structure. So what does that mean? Again, as a leader, you have to think about how communication flows. You have to think about trust. You have to think about skill building in a different way. You have to think about context and accountability. So some of the emerging responsibilities and skills of the modern leader in the AI age, number one is context setting, because it's less about direction of telling people what to do, because AI doesn't need your direction. If it's autonomous, it'll figure it out. What it does need is context. Why should this be done actually matters more than just telling it what needs to be done. So the wisdom of leaders and the perspective that leaders bring to context set becomes a very important criteria and skill set. Number two, you have to apply your wisdom and judgment to know what is the right thing to do and when not to do it. You can read the room. You can understand what customers really want. You can understand ethical right and wrong. That's where the human judgment really matters. And you have to apply that in practice and not just leave it to the machine to just autonomously do things. And number three, to me, is one of the most valuable traits of a leader is be the one who remains accountable. Because machines can do any amount of work, but what happens when something goes wrong? Who gets the blame? It's never going to be AI that gets the blame. It'll be some human in the loop that gets the blame. And if you are that person who is willing to take ownership, it actually makes you more powerful. It makes you more valuable. So those are the ways in which leadership is changing. And it's not about trying to hold on to just being human. It's learning how to operate in this new hybrid world of humans and machines that is moving in a very agile, fast way, and knowing where the guardrails are and how you lead with your context and wisdom and accountability.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that so much. Thank you so much for sharing that. We're going to take another break to get some messages from our sponsors, and we'll be back. Are you a woman in STEM who is tired of working hard and still feeling stuck? How would you like to know exactly what to do to have the career that you want or the career that you absolutely desire? So every week, I share strategies for advancing your career, growing your leadership, and using AI. So click the link in the show notes and get the AWI STEM weekly newsletter delivered to your inbox. All right, so here we are. You talk about moving without permission. I think to the last point that we just discussed right now, because I think one of the things that is holding people back from knowing how to lead in this new environment is that they're waiting for someone to tell them it's okay. It's okay to be different. It's okay to move differently. So, what does being a proactive leader and kind of owning your responsibilities in this day and age actually look like in practice?
It's doing, not just thinking about doing. I think that's one of the key things. One of the interesting insights that we've repeatedly seen come out of our diagnostic, which, by the way, anyone who's listening to this should invite them to go take their own AI readiness diagnostic, go to FlipFactor.ai. But what we find through that diagnostic is that there's 4 different archetypes of people. And one of the most common archetypes is what's called the guardian archetype. The guardian is someone who's waiting for permission, who is afraid to break things, and who is very protective about the environment, about data, about security, about bias, all of those things. And so they just don't take action, and they wait for someone to tell them what to do. What ends up happening as a result is they're getting left behind more and more, because every week that goes by that you don't have those agentic skills, you are going to get left behind, and ultimately it impacts their career and their performance. So what I would say is, recognize that no matter what your reservations are, what's most important is that you don't be a bystander. You're not going to master the skills of this age by watching, by reading, by listening. The only way to build the skills is roll up your sleeves, get your hands in the dirt, and, build. It is the age of the builder, not of the thinker.
I like that. The age of the builder. And it just kind of reminds me of, I have a friend of mine, she's a founder. And one of the things that she helps women do is stuff about like agentic AI, more like instead of just getting into AI to know how to use AI, you should also begin AI to figure out how to build with it and just kind of
Mhm. Yep.
over the things that you do. So I'm glad that you brought that up because, sometimes we need to hear something
Yeah.
the wrong times for it to make sense for us. And I can't believe we're here. I mean, I've been having so much fun. I could talk to you for like ever. But I want to ask this question because it's really always important to me because to find out the reason why people do what they do and what they hope to leave the world with. So if the work that you're doing succeeds and scales the way you envision it to, so how will people experience work, leadership, and growth differently because of what you have built or what you've helped build?
Yeah. Well, that goes back to why we do what we do and why I am so passionate about it is I want to see a world where humans are limitless and our potential is fully unlocked, and where people become people squared. That is a great life because it's what we were put on this earth to do. And up until now, we did not have that infinite intelligence and those kind of capabilities to be able to achieve that. Today we do. So my mission is simply helping people understand how to co-evolve with AI as their partner, because that's what makes them exponentially capable.
Yeah. Exciting. Thank you so much, Nikki. Oh my goodness, can't believe we're here. So I'm going to ask you, because, we kind of have an idea, but can you please tell us what you're working on right now that you would like people to know so that people can collaborate with you? And then tell us also where they can find you as well.
Well, I would love to connect with people on LinkedIn. I'm pretty active there. And you can also read more about me on my personal website, nikkibarua.com. But what I'd love for people to really take action on is don't be a bystander and keep waiting for your boss or for your spouse or a friend or neighbor to tell you to become agentic. Start now. And step 1 for starting is discovering exactly where you stand today. And so take that diagnostic, go to flipfactor.ai, and you will get your personalized report. And to me, that's the most incredible way to start this journey, is to have a deep understanding of where you stand. So I'd encourage everyone to get started on that and look forward to hearing more.
I agree, because self-awareness is key. So please, everyone listening, make sure to follow Nikki. She's on LinkedIn and very active. And go to FlipFactor.ai and take that diagnostic, because if you know better, you can do better. Okay? When you do, go back to LinkedIn and tell Nikki diagnostic and these are my results, and then she can direct you on what else to do after that. And again, we want you to also reach out to Nikki and me and just tag us and tell us what have you learned from this episode. What was most helpful? We've told them what to take action on, and we would love you to take action on that so they can know where to start and lead and succeed in this AI age. And then one of the best ways to support this podcast is by leaving us a review. So leave us a review. Let us know how much you absolutely enjoyed this episode with Nikki and I. And in future episodes, I will shout you out. So thank you so much, Nikki. I appreciate you being here. I appreciate this time and you answering all my questions.
Thank you for inviting me and for having me on your show. I really enjoyed it.
Alrighty. Thank you so much, everyone listening. And join me again on the next episode. Bye.